Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This time I'm going to talk about Sheim story. I'm sure a lot of people are curious when the next episode is, and I have some bad news for you all. So for those of you who don't know, Sheim story is an animated video series about my stick figure Sheim. People constantly mispronounce his name, which is fine. It's a very weird spelled name, so. But I did a story series on it, kind of inspired off of Gilded Guy and all the other people who are making stories based off of their stick figure duelists. And I had this big, elaborate story planned. The first Shame story wasn't even really meant to be a Shame story. It was just an animation that I did for a friend. It was like an unofficial RHG to start. And after that, I was like, oh, okay, this has potential. I can see myself doing more of this. Let's go ahead and make a duelist demo. Yeah. So, and that's when I started really thinking about this whole lore thing. So I didn't think of anything up until the second episode. I didn't have a fucking clue what I was doing. I was just kind of going with it and hoping it turned out good. And the first one, the camera's way too quick. The second one, I hate it. I hate Shame Story for the most part. I think the last couple Shame Stories recently are okay, but nothing to really write home about, if you know what I don't think they're anything too special. But, people enjoy them. And at the end of the day, that's why I make them, is so people can just enjoy a fun little story. Even though I might hate it, as I do most of my projects. If some people get inspired from it or find any sort of enjoyment out of it, I've accomplished my goal. That being said, I don't think I'll be continuing Shame Story. It's mostly because the ending of that story that I had planned and that I was building up to was going to be very anticlimactic. It wasn't going to be a good payoff, if you know what I'm saying. Like the ending episode required you to be a fan from the very beginning of me joining the dojo. I'm going to say it now because it's not the plan anymore, obviously. But the ending plan was to have Glide, my first duelist, show up at the very end, and it would be Shame versus Glide, my own duelists fighting each other. After all this talk of me saying, oh, he's dead, he's not a thing anymore, you guys need to stop talking about him. But he was very much so alive. There's just some bullshit story behind all of it. And I'm not going to really talk about it in depth because I'm not fully canceling it. I'm just kind of putting it on the shelf indefinitely. I've already heard some people are writing their own endings to Shame Story, which blows my fucking mind that anyone would care that much. But that's totally welcome. Like, if you want to go and make your own headcanon ending, go ahead, because I have no fucking clue what it's going to be, let alone if I'll ever come back to it. It is possible I will. And I've already broken the news to some fans who were asking me in like voice chats and shit that I wasn't planning on continuing it. And, they were very disappointed. And I understand that. Like, I don't know what it was about the story personally, but if anything that you're passionate about gets taken away from you, of course you're going to feel some disappointment, some frustration. You're just going to be sad for a bit. And that's totally fine. That's acceptable. But at the end of the day, I'm not going to force myself to make something I'm not going to be happy about. That's just not happening. That's a big rule that I've been living by on my channel and as far as my creations go for quite a while now. I don't like making things just because my fans want me to make them. And as much as I love my fans and I really appreciate the opportunity that this community has given me, this platform that it's given me, if I'm not feeling passionate about something, I'm not going to continue it because by the end result, the audience is going to be able to tell, right? So I'm not, I just don't want to continue it. And that's that. I don't think a lot of people are really going to have a huge issue with that. I think most people are pretty understanding about this decision. You know, if you're not passionate about something, what's the point, right? I think a lot of creators share that same sentiment, but you know, the ones who turn it into a business, they tend to get lost in the success and lost into what the viewers expect. But like, no matter how successful you get, if you don't enjoy doing what you're doing, your audience can tell. They're not stupid. You're not going to be able to pull one over their eyes. It's human nature. If they can tell that you're unhappy with what you're creating, then you're eventually, it may not be immediate, but you're eventually going to put less and less effort into it because you're not passionate about it anymore. People can tell. And I didn't want to continue creating something that I didn't care about. Like, I'm not going to completely ditch Sheim as a character. I'll still use him in collaborations and shit, but I won't be developing him as a character any further. And I think one of the big issues with him as a character is there was nothing to improve. He was just, I don't know. He was, you know, he wasn't, and he didn't have any problems. There was nothing to develop in my eyes. You know, all of the character development came from the green guy that kept trying to get Sheim killed, but over the first few episodes, like, we don't have any character development from him. There is no reason for the audience to be attached for him. At this point, he is just simply there to be the aggravator. That is and was his only purpose. By the ending episode or two, I was going to, and you know, kind of lean back on that and show that he was going to man up and be the good guy and save Sheim and Glide. But I don't know. I planned for there to be about 8 episodes to this bullshit. And I got to episode 5 and realized, man, I don't want to do this. But also around the same time, I began to have this idea for a movie called Gravity, and I announced that, and I got an absolutely overwhelming amount of support for just the idea. I just announced it, and people went with it. They took this idea, and they were like, this is the best thing that's ever going to be made, ever. Which I don't really understand. I don't understand how most of my fans think. That's still weird to me. But, you know, they were very... They liked the idea for my movie, and that kind of, you know, spawned a new generation of my audience, you know. The people who would constantly be asking for progress on Gravity. And, you know, the more that people would ask for progress on Gravity, the fewer people would ask for the next Sheim story. And that still stands true as of this recording. I rarely ever get people recommending a Sheim story anymore because it's been so long, and most people know about the movie at this point. So, you know, more people are going to be looking forward to the movie, of course. And that's totally fine. Like, I want to focus on the movie before Sheim's story anyways, because there's more potential there, you know, there's more opportunity. And the story is way more fleshed out than Sheim's story ever was. And while we're still in the writing and concept art phases of the Gravity movie, and it's been over a year since production started, I'm still motivated more than ever to actually get this thing released. I mean, right now, the only roadblock is that I'm also currently working on Stuntman 3, which is turning out to be a much bigger project in post-production than I had ever anticipated it being. But, you know, after Stuntman 3 is released, I'm going to be focusing heavily on the movie. You know, I have a bunch of friends who are more than willing and all excited to help me on it. I don't know if there will be a Kickstarter on it anymore. That's not something I could say confidently, due to things I don't want to get into. But yeah, I don't know. Sheim's story isn't really a thing as of now. And if I do decide to continue it, I will be pivoting its direction very heavily. So, you know, if it returns, the story is going to be going in a different direction. And I think that would be for the better. But I have no idea what that would be. All of my headspace is focused on Gravity at the moment. Gravity and Stuntman. Those are my 2 top priorities. Outside of that, I don't know. Sheim's story is just going to be put on the shelf indefinitely. But I hope you all understand. And, hopefully you don't have an issue with that. Again, I'm sure I'll still be using Sheim in projects, just not in any story sense, you know. Yeah, I think that's about all that I have to say about that matter. Yeah, thank you all for watching. Make sure you unsubscribe. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.